we actually have a candidate. All right. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Todd Varwork. I am Chief Policy Officer for Western New York Independent Living. Today's event will be emceed by our inimitable Mark Shaw, who will take over for me when we have our first candidate. Rules are simple. When not speaking, please mute your microphone, or we will mute you like I just did with Sally. Right. You can ask questions by raising your hand to let Mark know, or putting them in the chat, and Mark will read them for you. Each candidate will have approximately 10 minutes or until the next guy shows up. Any questions so far? You're all muted. You can't answer me. That's funny. Well, I'll tell you what. If you understand what I've just told you, take a moment and raise your hand, because then we can clear them. Thank you, Lindsay. Sarah. Yahira, whoever Yahira is. That's good.
Jahida.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, jump right in and correct me when I mispronounce somebody's name. That's terrible.
Don't worry, I'm going to bop over to her office and tell her to get on screen in a second.
This isn't a staff meeting. If they don't want their face to show on screen, it's not required that they do so.
I'm messing with them at this point. It would be
well,
good
all
if
right.
there's some faces on here and not just all names, at least for part of this.
Yes, yes. I have two more. I'm so sorry I mispronounced your name. I feel terrible about it until the next meeting when I do it again. She's smiling already. She knows. She's shaking her head. We are waiting for Mr. James Perry running for Niagara Falls Councilman. I'll give you the also running for Niagara Falls Council is the 230 guy, Mr. Colin Ligomari. That's a name. Niagara County Legislature at 250 with Mr. William Kennedy III. Then going back to Niagara Falls City Council for Ms. Tracy Backs and Donta Miles. Right. And then a couple of legislative candidates in Christopher Vacchio and Jeffrey Elder. We did not hear from Ms. Mullane this morning. Mark?
No.
All right. We give her full credit. She did contact us to tell us that she had a family emergency and was probably not able to submit the video because of that. Well, let me kind of vamp a little bit while we're waiting for somebody. I'll do the rules again in a minute. But for those people that already heard me, has anybody participated in early voting already? Because I'm very curious to know your experience, especially working with the Niagara County voting machines. Yesterday, I heard our inimitable CEO, Douglas Jajuziak's experience working with our automarks in Erie County. Has anybody here tried early voting yet? You can unmute your microphone to answer me.
No.
No? Thanks,
No.
Roger. No? You guys are all going to vote on election day? You like the drama, don't you? Right? I know, me too. I'm not used to being able to vote early. But who here intends to use the adaptive part of the ballot marking device when they vote?
It's like decorations. Yeah.
Anybody curious about how that works?
And you got these fire pits.
And I use it just so that I know how to use it and so that it works. Because we did the poll,
You looking at the book, what happened?
where you go and check on the polls.
Looking at the book, is it special?
And
Right.
I asked to use that. Yep. So now I use it just so that, I can assure that it's working.
Always inspect it. Last year it was I do the checklist as well, and one of the things that I found last year didn't have the 5-foot clearance well around it, so they did adjust that while I was there.
Well, that's good. You want to report that, Ronnie. If you go to your polling place this year and you have them do it again.
I always take the checkoff list with me. I walk through, I check everything. So, and if it's that way, I take a checklist with me again this year the same way.
We were already talking this morning, Todd, about going over the checklist and hazing the new staff, if you will, on how to go through the checklist so that we can get a bunch of them for reporting purposes.
Everybody should go through the checklist. Disability Rights New York would love to have our surveys this year.
That's where we always send them.
All righty. A few more people have entered while we've started. We're waiting for Mr. Perry, who isn't scheduled until 2:20. I appreciate your patience. Just as a reminder, if you're not asking a question or speaking, please mute your microphone or we will mute you. If you make too much noise after I mute you a couple times, I will kick you back out to the waiting room. It'll be our defense against Zoom bombers. It did happen to us a couple times yesterday. And you can ask questions by raising your hand, which we all practiced a little while ago for those of us who were on. Or you can put the question in the chat for Mark to ask. Because once we get our first candidate, Mark will take over as your lovable MC. Any questions?
No.
I don't see him yet. And we were talking about early voting and using the machines, which are different than the ones in Erie County. Mark, anything you want to add in here?
No, I'm just reading.
We're waiting for Mr. Perry.
Yeah.
Say, Todd, I bet you'd know.
Yes, sir.
If I recall the news coverage, didn't Dominion sue certain politicians for defaming them after the 2020 election or some such?
Yes, Dominion is one of the people suing some members of the Trump campaign for defamation for billions of dollars. The suit is being allowed to, the suit survived summary judgment and is allowed to go forward. Because they said that Dominion is secretly run by like Venezuelan rebels or something that were attempting to, steal our votes.
Boy, those vote stealers will do just about anything, won't they? It's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it?
And that they were linked with Hugo Chavez, and Chavez has been dead.
Yeah, right. Ronnie's got it. Right?
I have to jump in with a clarifying question real quick. I thought that there was going to be an interpreter online and I didn't have to set things up over here. Did that change?
No, we got a notice that there should be an interpreter, right? And I haven't seen them join yet.
Well, because I saw two, so I just wanted to verify, because if I'm going to have to set up a computer for them midstream, I wanted to double check. Sorry, everybody.
No, we'll give them another couple minutes.
Okay.
I should make you bigger if I can. Ta-da. This is just about. He should be here. He should be here anytime, Mr. Perry. And for those people that don't know, we tell them when we confirm that they should get on about 5 minutes before they're scheduled to speak, so that we can acknowledge them. So we're coming up on that for Mr. Perry. Interesting. Nobody from the phones today.
A thought occurs. If Mr. Perry wanted to make friends and influence people, he should get his dad to give ice cream to all the voters in Niagara County.
Do you think they're related, Ernie? That's nepotism for you. Brings back the advocacy we did against Uber when they were trying to convince people about how valuable they were. They went around delivering ice cream bars to people.
Oh, yeah.
And not to be outdone, the guy from Liberty Cab rented some Mr. Softy trucks and drove around to the same places he thought the Uber vehicles were going to be.
The ice cream wars.
Yep. Oh. Nancy keeps popping in and popping out.
Maybe we have a Wi-Fi thing going on, but we'll see how things work out.
She's the only one that I'm noticing that's happening multiple times to. I'm keeping an eye on it though.
All right, thank you.
I guess perhaps while we're waiting, anybody have a suggestion? Any city residents have a suggestion as a good opening question for our councilman candidates, since we appear to have a good number of them scheduled today? All right. What do you think a good first question that Mark should give them might be? You can unmute your microphone to tell me. Either we don't have anybody who has any question ideas, or we have people that don't live in the city of Niagara Falls.
I was thinking like, what are your plans for how you're gonna support individuals with disabilities in the city of Niagara Falls?
Okay. I mean, that's a good question, Mark. I just wanted to see if there was anybody else in the audience who might have had a better one. Because I know, and I know Doug is here. Doug had some really great questions for the town of Amherst supervisor guy, right?
That was funny.
And his question was a really simple one, but it flummoxed him to the point where, he tried to answer it 3 times. You remember the guy with the little throbbing thing in his forehead?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good for the So we're Mr. Perry is in the waiting room. I'm going to admit him and do an official introduction and hand it off to you, right?
All right.
Okay. All right, folks, our first candidate has arrived. So let me be the first to officially welcome you to IONC's Meet the Candidates Day. My name is Todd Varwick. I'm the Chief Policy Officer with Western New York Independent Living. Today, your event will be genially hosted by Mark Shaw, who's the statewide systems advocacy network person. And just as a reminder, you can ask questions by raising your hand so that Mark can pick you, or typing them into the chat so that Mark can ask. Our first candidate is here, Mr. Jim Perry. If you want, you can turn on your camera and unmute your mic and say hello to the folks, and we'll get you started.
Okay, I'm trying to sign in. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you, Jim.
Okay, I'm just trying to get in here. Having a few technical difficulties.
No, that never happens on Zoom calls.
Okay, let's see here now. All right, I'm not a robot. Okay. Oh gosh, just bear with me, folks.
I'm going to send you something to ask to start your video and see if you see that or not.
Okay, I got it here.
There we
Okay,
go.
there we go.
Now we
How's
can
that?
see you and now we can hear you. So your 10 minutes starts now.
Okay, how? All right, now I just lost again.
No,
Okay,
you're still there. We can still see you.
okay. I must have just lost the on my end here, but there we go. Okay, I can see everybody now. Hello, folks. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Thank you
my name
for
is Jim.
joining us.
My name is Jim Perry. I've been a citizen in Niagara Falls. I grew up in Niagara Falls, and I served 10 years in the Army. I came back to Niagara Falls and went to work for the city of Niagara Falls. Then after that, I went to work for a company, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, where I started as a operator, and I worked my way up. I finished getting my first and second degree. You can interrupt me at any time here if anybody has any questions. I retired from there in 2015, and they were having some labor disputes at the water board in Niagara Falls. So what I did is they'd asked me to come to work for them to help settle the dispute, which I did. I worked there for about 4 years, and I retired again. And then some people called me and asked me if I would consider running for office. There was a conversation, and guess what? I decided to run. So, so here I am. Glad to meet you all, and open to any questions. My wife is an RN. She works for the Kaleida Health System. She's also. Is there a question out there? Oh no. She also did some volunteer work for People Inc. and Opportunities Unlimited. Okay.
Keep going, Jim. This is Zoom bombing protection. Keep going.
Okay. Anyways, my wife is she's an RN. She's I don't know if she's going to. I've been trying to talk her into retiring, but she loves her work. So I don't think that's going to happen too soon. We're both in our 60s, and we've been around for a while. So I'll open it up to questions. If anybody has anything, I would be glad to talk to you, or if you just want to talk about whatever you feel like, I'll be glad to listen to you. So, anybody have anything?
I have a question for you to start us off. How do you plan to support individuals with disabilities in the city of Niagara Falls?
I'm sorry.
How do you plan to support people with disabilities in the city?
Okay. Well, you know what I did? Well, when I worked at Goodyear, and I had an opportunity. I was the HR manager there, human resource manager there, and I had an opportunity to go to Opportunities Unlimited for a while and work or meet many of the people that work there. And I found out there's a lot of things that that they did that we tapped into while I was there. Like some of them, you know, using their services, and I would, I feel that that's, you know, that's a big help. They're working with organizations like them, like Opportunities Unlimited. I don't know if they still do. They did when I left Goodyear. They did ink cartridges where they filled the ink cartridges and reusable ink cartridges for the companies, which is a big savings for companies, and it also helped the organization. And I know there's a lot of other opportunities like that along the way. So I'd be open to exploring all of that. And it's a win-win situation. It could help the community. It could help the city. It could help, and it helps employment prospects for everyone. I hope I answered that okay for you adequately. Okay.
Okay, I think I'll do the next question while people come up with ideas. Remember, oh, I have a hand up already. Nicole, you can unmute your mic to ask a question. Nicole Leftwich, did you mean to raise your hand?
Yes, I did raise my hand.
There
I did
you
have
are.
a question. What is the single asset that that you bring to I'm sorry. What is a single asset that you bring with you to the office?
Okay, you want just one? Okay, I can give you a lot of.
Yeah, could you give me just one or maybe two little quick ones if you can?
All right. What out of all the candidates, I am one of the. Well, I'm probably the only one that has both experience in the public and private sector, and that I've worked for the public sector, which is the city of Niagara Falls and the Niagara Falls Water Board, which is a state agency. And I've had experience in the private sector. I worked my way up after getting out of the Army. I worked my way up to an executive position in Goodyear. So, you know, I know how to work. I can roll my sleeves up and get right into things. And I have a lot of experience I bring to the table. I'm the senior person running for office, and I can bring a lot.
Hold on one moment.
Okay, how are we doing?
You should be gone now.
All right.
This is what happens when you have a public Zoom meeting that people can join. We have to watch out for the bombers. Keep going.
That's so my experience is you know is a lot. It brings a lot to the table. The things that I've been through, issues I've lived through, experiences I've had, and that brings a lot. That brings a lot of things into perspective. I've also talked to the other candidates, and with them, I know that a lot of them aren't familiar with the things that go on in the city. And a lot of people, maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with the meetings that go on and the decisions that are made away from the cameras. You know, when they go to a city council meeting, everybody's sitting there everybody's sitting there.
All right. He froze.
Scene. You know, I'm aware of that, and I participate
Okay, Jim, you're cutting in and out. Okay. Is he gone? No, he might be gone. He might try to get back in.
How is that? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Wait, that was weird. Yeah, all of a sudden everything just went blank. So I don't know what the last part was you heard, because I was talking and I looked up at the screen and everybody was gone.
That's all right. Let's go to Mr. Bell. Mr. Bell, you unmute your mic and ask a question.
Yeah, how you doing today, Mr. Perry?
Hi, Ronnie.
Now, you live in the city proper, correct?
Yes, I do.
All right. Are you aware of the homelessness problem that we have in the city proper of Niagara Falls?
Yes, I am.
Disability people, yeah. So we brought in these developers a few years ago, and they developed these, the Niagara Street, they did a development over there. And to my understanding, they've also been awarded some monies to do a development on Main Street there, where you see a lot of our disability people hanging out. And those apartments don't seem to be affordable for people who are on disability. What can we do, or what can you do to help us to find, make sure that those new developments are affordable for people who are disabled?
You know, a lot of that stuff is under the private sector, but what the government can do to help and what we could do to help is now I haven't seen the contracts with what is going on at the moment, but I would know going forward. There is, and I know that a couple of my colleagues that are also running feel the same way I do, is building in provisions for the lower income and the people that have difficulties in making ends meet, putting in clauses that would permit a percentage of that to go to the lower income housing. And that's been a problem in Niagara Falls for a while now, is the economic end of it, the economic development of it, and keeping everybody on an even keel. And I don't think that's a problem unique to Niagara Falls. I think it's a problem we have across the country, affordable housing. That's something that needs to be addressed going forward. Going backwards, I don't know if there's anything that can be done, but going forward, we can make sure that we have something. Matter of fact, I've talked to a lot of the unions, the trade unions, and they also have a concern about affordable housing and income properties and things. So that is something wherever grants are concerned, or wherever public is involved with these things, there should be some type of mechanism built into the contracts with that.
Matter of fact, that was one of my understandings with that. They did give those developers grants, close to $250,000. They gave those developers.
Yeah, there should be something in that calls, I'd have to look at it. There should be something in that that calls for some type of give back to the community, because the grants are not, when they say they give out grants, I'm just writing this down. When they give people grants, there's usually something tied to it, like use of a percentage for, say, minority-owned businesses and lower income people. The grants are not just money handed out to people. There are provisions to stimulate some part of the economy. And those specifically, I can't really talk on because I don't have direct information with that. But, going forward, I am going to look into that and find out what exactly is involved in that one. Usually, MWBE, there's some stipulations, but I don't know, if MWBE, which is minority and women-owned businesses, there's some type of stipulation built into that. But I gotta look into that. I'm, going forward, that's usually something we do, set aside so much for certain groups of people. So,
Jim, I'm gonna borrow a second here because I want to make sure that our next candidate is here. I do have somebody who's listed as Colin Ligomari as our next scheduled
yeah.
speaker. You are here?
Hi, not a man.
Hey, Colin, how you doing?
My apologies.
Okay.
Jim, that means that the next hand I have up is our last question for you, and then I'm gonna let Colin take over. Right?
Okay. And by the way, I like Colin. She's a very good candidate. I think you'll like her too.
Mr. Perry's a lovely person. He will do this city a service.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Mr. Sweet for the last question for our first guest.
Hey, Norman,
Norman.
Your mic is muted, Norman.
You're muted.
Mute. There we go. Here we go. Okay, Mr. Perry.
Yes, sir.
You said something that I consider to be very important. You work your way up from a young man getting out of the Army. I take it to mean
fat ass nigger, 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 fat ass.
Sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead, Norman.
Arms are going off all over the place today. Mr. Perry, how would you suggest me as a grandparent with a 17-year-old son, how can he work his way into a job that has a future? And how can he work his way up as you probably did?
That's a good question, Norman, because I think you and I are in the same boat. I have a 17-year-old granddaughter that I'm trying to motivate too. And the one thing that I find that was the most important, and it was something that I learned as I lived through it, is your education. Your determination and education. I think we all have a certain work ethic that we bring to the table, but if you want to advance, one of the most important things is getting a good education behind you. And I'm struggling with my granddaughter now, is because I want her to go to certain schools and take up certain things. And blue collars right now, blue collar work, trades, electricians, carpenters, those type of trades are in high demand. And that is something that I would strongly urge people to look at. So, Norman, we have a lot of things in common, believe me, and we want the best for the next generation coming up, especially ours, the ones that we have coming up behind us. So I just work hard, get a good education, and roll up your sleeves and put your nose to the grindstone.
That's a great answer. And I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. We appreciate you stopping by. Good luck on your candidacy.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And I appreciate the time. So.
We're going to throw it right over to Colin. Ma'am, if you can unmute yourself and start your camera.
Hi, can you see me okay? I'm over here.
Well, you pop up in the center of my screen when you speak. So, no, wonderful. Thank you for having us. As always, if you want to ask the Colin a question, she's our next candidate running for Niagara Falls City Council. Raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat, and Mark will ask it for you. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I understand. I was just reading about the disturbance.
Yes, we may have Zoom bombers because we did set this meeting up for public attendance.
I understand.
So we are I got 4 people actively monitoring for that stuff. So please be patient with us. We'll get rid of them as soon as we can.
It's fine.
Go ahead.
So hello, I'm Colin Ligomari. I'm running for Niagara Falls City Council. Pardon my nervousness. No matter how many times I do this, I am never less nervous. We had a debate last week and I thought I was going to pass out and fall over. So pardon my stumbling and stuttering. So I am a Niagara Falls candidate for city council. I am a mom. I grew up here in the city. I moved away for about 12 years and I got a nice outsider perspective of how other cities function and other municipalities work. And then I moved back here because I missed my family. And when I moved back here, you know, nothing had changed to improve. In fact, we had gotten worse in the time that I had been gone. So through that frustration, and also at the same time that I began, I started a small business. And as I was trying to get this business up and running here in Niagara Falls, I was, you know, being hit with all sorts of different red tapes and why I can't do this and why I can't do that. And I got to a point of frustration where I thought, maybe this is something I can bring to the table, this perspective, to help the next wave of people that maybe want to start a business or live and function here, and make it easier for them to do so that our community can thrive again.
Okay.
All right.
Mark, you're up.
So my question to start this off is, what, and pardon me, if you're elected to office, what will you do to support people with disabilities around the city of Niagara Falls?
So great question. I think that the most important thing that I can do, and this is the starting point that I started at with everything along this learning process, is listening to the needs and then finding ways to apply solutions to needs that we have. And whether that means we need help with different programs or grant fundings, but first and foremost, learning what we need so that we can work together to arrive at a solution. Because I know Niagara Falls on the whole, we have a lot of need here. Our quality of life is, in my opinion, not where it should be. So making sure that we're listening to the community and working together with the community is how we're going to get to the solutions.
All right. Jeanette, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. My name is Jeanette, and I would like to know what your plans are, transportation especially. I'm curious about what your plan is for paratransit and working with the NFTA for people with disabilities in Niagara Falls.
So I just recently started learning about public transit and some of the challenges that we have. I myself am guilty of not taking public transit. So throughout the summer, I've been to different events and I've spoken to, I'm sorry, say the name of the organization again, the
NFTA, the
Niagara Falls Transportation Authority. So I sat down with two women at an event over on Highland Avenue where we talked about how they were working on rerouting and changing the bus routes. And I know that they were looking for public input, and I'm not sure that our public transit system right now, if what I'm hearing is correct, is the most efficient way to get where you're going in a timely fashion. So again, making sure that we're having those conversations and that everybody is seated at that table to make sure that those needs are being met. So if it takes you 3 hours to get, you know, to the other side of town, because first you have to route through Lockport, is not the most efficient way to get people where they need to be and home again. So just making sure that all parties are present at the table and that all concerns are being raised and that we're actively working towards solutions for them. I myself have my father is legally blind, and he didn't start that way, but he gradually got to this point through glaucoma. And so just watching him try to get where he needs to go to receive the things that he needs just to live a normal day-to-day life has been difficult. So it's now come, into the forefront of my family as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Geraldine.
Hi.
Hi.
And I just want to say good luck to you, Colin, in this election. I want to ask, and then this question was asked to Mr. Perry, but I want your take on this. And I know that housing is an issue across the board, but is there anything that you can speak to what can be done, or any ideas that you have regarding the affordable and accessible housing barriers that we have in our area?
Yes, ma'am. We have a lot of issues that are not being addressed with housing. So what I do for my work is I buy and I renovate some of our most blighted homes here in Niagara Falls. I'm a small business. I'm not a developer. I'm just kind of a one-man show. So I buy a house, I take out a loan, and then I pay to fix it, and then we go from there. Right now, Niagara Falls has housing stock from when we were a thriving city. And there are not a lot of pathways for first-time home buyers. And I started to dig into this a little bit deeper because I feel like that's really important for our community, especially for people who can't necessarily go the typical route of being mortgageable. So what I would like to try to put into place, and what I feel is important, is making sure that there's a pathway for somebody who wants to own a home to be able to do so. So that's where my immediate focus went, is making sure that, people are able to afford to purchase homes instead of rent homes, because 44%, I believe, of our population are renters. And I feel like most people, if they had a choice, they would choose to own where they lived. But if not, some people do like to rent. Sorry, my video changed and now I can't see. Can you guys still see me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So
let me guess, you saw the interpreter for a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we can still see you and hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't making a crazy face. But I heard like a portion, I think, of what Mr. Perry was saying is, if we're going to develop new housing, I feel like it should be mandatory that it is built in that a portion of that housing goes to low-income housing. We should be a multi-use city that is able to be accessed by everyone. We should have everything. We shouldn't have a whole city of one type of housing. What we need is to make sure that we're building that right into any new developments, and that it's mandatory that a certain percentage be for low-income housing. This also helps keep neighborhoods thriving and safe. And I feel pretty strongly about making sure that each building and housing area is a multi-use and multi-functioning. Sorry, did I freeze up?
Okay, Norman, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Colin.
And this will be the last one, unless her next candidate isn't here yet.
Okay. Colin, a straight question. Would you support the city of Niagara Falls hiring a full-time person to advocate on behalf of the disadvantaged and the disabled?
I feel like if there's a need for that, then I would absolutely support.
Oh, there's a need.
And this is something I need to
if you
learn.
would support that. There's
Yes.
a need. We are evidence of the need.
And I feel like I would love to sit down with you guys to learn more about what it is that you advocate for, in different ways that I could help. But to answer your question, I would support that, yes.
Okay, we'll hold you to that now.
I'll write it down and make sure you do. And listen, if there's anything that comes up afterwards or later or something you didn't think of, I pride myself on being accessible to our community. So one of the things that I intend to do if elected right away, I feel like there's a disconnect between our local government and our community. I am going to set up, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Maybe I'll call it city committees or something of the like. But in each legislative district, because the needs are different in each district, I want to set up meetings where we meet on the regular so that your local government is hearing the needs of the community and the community has an opportunity to speak to your local government. So that way we can put everything on the table and hopefully arrive together at solutions that we need for everyone.
See, I keep muting myself so that I don't disturb things, and then I keep talking when I'm muted. I'm looking for Mr. Kennedy. If someone from Mr. Kennedy's campaign is here. I didn't think so. I didn't see him enter the waiting room. So Colin, you're gonna keep going until the next guy comes. So Mr. Bell, you're up.
Today, Colin.
Hi.
I liked a lot of things that you had to say, and having left Niagara Falls and returned at a later date, have you noticed the uptake in violence in some areas of the city?
Absolutely. So, I was a child of the 80s, and I didn't grow up in a well-to-do neighborhood. I grew up in kind of a rougher area of Niagara Falls. And, what I thought was rough then is no comparison to what I'm seeing now.
Yeah. So what are some of the solutions that you might be able to bring to the table for some of the gun violence that we're experiencing at this time?
Right. So in trying to answer that question throughout my whole campaign, I tried to speak to as many members of the community and as many members of our police department as possible. I went on a ride along with our police department to sort of see what it is that they're dealing with on a Friday night in the summertime. And it was crazy. So some of the solutions I think the community is calling for more community policing, which means that officers are in the neighborhoods, getting to know the community and being a part of that community instead of just coming in every time there's a problem to deal with, guns and violence. I think that if they're more present in our communities, then that would be helpful. I also feel like we should be using our community advocate groups like the Peacemakers, groups like Men Standing Strong Together, even groups like We All We Got. These are people who live in...
One moment. Thank you. Keep going.
Sorry. People that, people that live in the community and also advocate in their community, I think are some of the most helpful things that we can do to sort of get a handle on the violence.
Would you support and mounted police in some of our more dangerous areas?
Like horse mounted? Is that what you mean?
They did that a few years ago when there was a time when Niagara Falls was infested with drugs, and they would cut off streets and do that, and then they brought in foot patrols and mounted policemen, and that cleared the streets. It brought about a whole change.
Do you feel like it made a long-term change or just a short-term?
It did. It made a long-term change. And what I find is I see the cops riding in the truck, but I don't see the presence. I don't know them personally anymore. I used to know them personally. I don't know them personally anymore.
Right. And that's what I mean by community policing. We shouldn't just know you as you roll by. We should know you because we see you often.
Yeah.
And I know there were several events this summer. Captain Mike Corcoran is our officer that's in charge of community policing. And I sat with him for 2 hours one day and talked to him about it. It's something he feels strongly about. I know that the police are short And the short end of the stick usually lands on our petty crimes because everyone's responding to our most violent crime. They have to first. So some of the lower crimes, which affect our quality of life the most, those are the things that suffer. So I would absolutely support bringing more services to our police department so that they can also focus on our quality of life issues, our community policing, and again, advocacy groups that are already present in the community, not as law enforcement, but as, responding to the needs that the people have, going in between, making sure that, members of our community are actually, working in unison with our police department.
Would you support policemen who are employed by the city of Niagara Falls being residents of the city of Niagara Falls?
I feel pretty strongly about this, and I get some backlash on that. But I feel like it's very important to live and work in your community. I'm not saying forever, but definitely for a period of time, be that 10 years, 15 years, whatever the negotiation comes down to. But I feel like, the people who are working in our city should also live in our city, because then it's for everyone. It's for all of us, not just I come in, I do my job, and I get out of here. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think if you
Ronnie, the next candidate is here. I'm going to cut you
Okay.
off at that point, and thank Colin for spending all of her time with us. We appreciate you coming in and answering questions. Okay.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
No,
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for agreeing to keep open. We're going to go. I have a Bill Kay, who should be Mr. William Kennedy, running for Niagara County Legislator. Am I right?
That's correct. I'm here.
All righty. So the next 10 minutes is yours, or until the next guy comes to relieve you.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Well, first, I don't know. Can you see me? I'm not sure if this is opening up properly.
I cannot see you, but what I will do is, did you get a message to start your video? And there you are. Now we can see you and hear you.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, thank you for having me first and foremost. Obviously, this is not our first encounter, which makes me that much more happy and enjoyable to talk with you guys. I guess in a small, I'm sorry that I haven't seen you as much as I would have liked to, but I'm always open and available to anybody that wants to meet with me. So as you know, I'm running for county legislator this time, an endeavor that I did not set out to originally run for this time, because I felt like we had the greatest legislator ever in Niagara County in Dennis Virtuoso, representing the 6th district. So Dennis has decided to retire, and I'm the endorsed Democrat to potentially try to fill his shoes. I think anyone that says that they're just going to come in and do what Dennis has done right away would just be lying and fabricating any form of the truth. For me, anyone that knows me knows I'm born and raised in Niagara Falls. I'll always, I don't foresee myself leaving Niagara Falls anytime soon. And I just want to do what's best and try to do what's best for everybody in all regards. My big thing is, anybody knows me, I'm a big public safety ambassador. I'm pro-union, pro-labor. I was born and raised in a blue-collar household, and I feel that that type of background has made me appreciate some of the good things in life that I have, but also understand where I came from and some of the bad scenarios that I've either experienced, lived in, lived with, or saw happen to some of my friends and family and the residents of Niagara Falls. Basically, when I say that, it means I have a heart. Sometimes politicians get the branding of they don't care, or they don't care about you. And I think for the most part in the past 50 years in Niagara Falls, unfortunately, that part of it is true. They don't care. But anyone that knows me knows that I do care, because I've struggled. I know what it's like to penny pinch. I know what it's like to work on a budget. I've never had a silver spoon in my mouth. I've never been given things. Anything I have, I've worked for to this very day. Okay, I just left work. I work at Gaskill Prep School, and I'm working with the students of today and tomorrow, trying to help them learn from my experiences how to make good decisions. When you have a good decision, you have rewards. When you have a bad decision, you have repercussions. I take that same mentality to anything I do, especially working in city government and now hopefully county government. I am a straight shooter. I am beholden to nobody, no matter what anybody says. I'm a political independent. I don't even consider myself a politician. I'm just a kid from Niagara Falls trying to do what's right. I've always done that. My dad always said, if you do what's right, you never have to worry about it. And if you tell the truth, you never have to worry about who you said it to. And that's basically how I have conducted myself. I feel that even when there was a tough decision to be made, I did what I thought was right. And it may not be the popular choice. Sometimes it's not going to be the popular choice, but I'm willing to make tough decisions because we didn't have a solution for what we have to experience. Because people want to just say, hey, I voted for this or I voted against that. Well, that's great. What was your solution? None of that has happened as far as some of the issues. Everybody, it's easy for me to say, oh, I voted against the, public information officer, for an example. Well, what was my solution? Let's deal with this at another time. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Why are we handing out a patronage shop? So, again, public safety ambassador, pro-labor, pro-union. I love our police department. I'll do anything and everything I can to make sure that they are fully staffed, fully equipped, and have the things that they need in today's world. We need it to be congruent with the times we're living in, not somebody that's got a dinosaur laptop that can't even look up a license plate number. That's how bad things have been, but things have gotten a lot better. My goal in the county legislature, if I'm elected, is simply to continue to do the same thing I have done in Niagara Falls. That is to be a watchdog of the budget, be a watchdog and fight against and speak out against corruption. I will do whatever. I'm not part of anybody's clique. I don't just say yes because, well, everybody else said yes, so I should say yes. I don't do that. But, meeting with you guys in the past, I think you guys know I'm passionate about what I do and what I say. I feel like when I was there that I already knew everybody. I felt that I was comfortable. I'm a chameleon. I feel like I could walk into any room and know. If I don't know you, I'm walking out of that room knowing you. But if I do know you, then it's just another pleasant conversation and another pleasant experience in everything that I've had to deal with. I think everybody that is on this call, I actually don't even know who's on this call, but I'm rather confident in knowing, for those that have met me and talked with me before, that I'm a man of my word and I'm a straight shooter. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Normally, I would give Mark the honor of the first question, but we see a lot of hands up. So let's go with Miss Lang first. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good afternoon. I would like to know, when we have these meetings, we have, to me, the falls is the attraction. So I want to know what they're going to do to make the area around the falls look like tourist area. Or
absolutely.
Yes, put some businesses down there or something. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm tired of having to drive to Buffalo or Military Road to get something to eat. How come we don't have anything in that area?
Okay. Well, the first thing is that we've encountered some issues over the years with businesses handing down, because I'm not going to point fingers at any one particular person, but the reality is that a lot of people have heard and said that Niagara Falls is not business friendly. Unfortunately, prior to the past few years, that's been true. Now, is there a reason for that? I think there is, because I think certain people that were, this goes back not just 5, 10 years or 12 years, this goes back 20 years, 30 years, is that everybody that has been elected, whether it be mayor, council, whatever, unfortunately, you're dealing with egos. And we're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it that way. Instead of actually working with the local business owners or working with the people that want to start a business. I've started my own little small business. A lot of people may not think of it like that, but I've been bringing the movie industry to Niagara Falls. I've been producing movies all summer long. I've had TV shows come in. I've enticed them because I've had the capability of contacting them and saying, hey, I can get you this particular building, or I can bring this particular type of wardrobe or whatever. And we've had a couple really, it's going to be nice, but you're going to see Niagara Falls in a different light. It's going to be like, thank you to the city of Niagara Falls. Thank you to the city of Niagara Falls Police Department. But downtown there, we've run into some issues with the previous leaders of the state, we'll call it, dealing with trying to monopolize everything for the beneficiaries of their friends and family. Now, I think with this American relief money that's coming in, you're going to start seeing more meetings and more conversations about attractions. We have to have attractions. I even have a resident that's been telling me he's wanted a Ferris wheel downtown for the longest time, and I was kind of like, maybe not at first, but now I'd rather at least have that than nothing. So there is talk about, everybody keeps bringing up the indoor water park and things like that. That would be amazing, because that's when I was a kid. Even if it wasn't year round, we at least had Niagara Splash. We didn't have to go out to Darien Lake, or we didn't have to go to different, water parks for entertainment, especially during the summer. Now, I think you're just starting to see the beginning of all those types of talks. I can't say for sure, if I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you, but downtown we've run into basically, unfortunately, it's just an ego contest back and forth. Some of the owners don't want to do what the city has to say at the time. Now I think you have, some leaders in the city that are trying to draw business, and that's how we're going to grow and make things better down there.
Thank you. And you were talking about the American relief money. I apologize, but I understand that everybody has struggled, but there have been some of those like myself that have worked through this whole pandemic and struggled to pay their bills on time, and we're not getting nothing in return. So, what can you do about that?
Well, as far as getting paid for working during the pandemic, I personally, I don't want to tell you that I can, wave a magic wand and whoever you work for is going to give you an extra $1,000. I do think that you're starting to see some of the things in the presidential level, congressional level, where they're looking to see who worked during the pandemic. I was off for a little bit, but then I was actually able to start working again, and I made sure that I did. And so I feel much like you do. And I was just like, people are out there, jeopardizing themselves, and but other people are sitting on their butts collecting money, and that's why that extra unemployment and the extra money had to go away. So I can't tell you that I could do anything for you. I'd be lying if I can ask, I can inquire, I can see where we're at, I can see what's possible, but I don't want to tell you that it's something I can do, because that, in my position, my main job is to work on the budget to approve or not approve spending and approve or not approve legislative laws and resolutions that come to the council. That's mainly what I have all of November and December remaining on my council term. Tuesday night, I'll know if I'll be on the county and doing basically those same things, but at least with a bigger budget and brighter ideas with more people that are like-minded like me that I can actually utilize to help get things done.
I appreciate your honesty. Thank you so much.
All right, Bill, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm glad that I'll be honest with you. I had some issues with my phone lately, so I reconnected my city council email. I finally ended up having to get a new phone. I took it down to the IT guy, reconnected it, and I just happened to have the first 15 emails that reconnected to my phone, and I saw yours, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta respond. I haven't talked to him forever. I miss him." Yeah.
And we appreciate that. I want to thank you for coming, and we're going to pass it over to Miss Backs.
bring one shed.
Tracy Backs is running for Niagara Falls City Council once again. Tracy, can you hear us?
Hi there.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I'm gonna thank you everybody and good luck, Tracy. Thanks.
Thanks.
All
Bye,
right.
Bill.
First thing I'm gonna do, because I can't see you yet.
Oh, wait, I think that's my fault. Okay, can you see me now?
Yep, we can see you now.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
All right, so the next 10 minutes is yours.
All right, great. Well, thank you. And first of all, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to this call and have the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Tracy Backs, and I'm running for Niagara Falls City Council. So this is a really unique and interesting, special year, I think, for us, because in Niagara Falls, what's unique about it is, at least for the first time that I can remember in a very long time, 3 seats are available that will be filled on November 2nd. So in just about 6 days here. So 3 seats are available. There's 6 people running for these 3 seats, and all of us are newcomers to the position. It's our first time. I'm sorry, not first time running, because some of are running, I think, for their second time. But all of us who would be voted in would be new to the council, and that's what's unique about it. So what I'd like to do is, since I'm new and a new candidate running, tell you a little bit about myself, my background, and more importantly, why I'm doing this. And then hopefully maybe I can answer some questions of yours. So I am from Niagara Falls, born and raised in Niagara Falls, lived here for 50 years. And I started my career here, in the tourism industry a little over 30 years ago. And I started working in some of the hotels downtown in the city. I worked for Hard Rock Cafe in a management position there. And the last bulk of my career, I should say over 20, 25 years, has been with an organization called AAA. Now, many people know AAA as for our emergency rescue services that we provide, on the roadside. But AAA also has several businesses. And one of the businesses that I was in charge of as an assistant vice president there for the organization is running their travel operations. Again, hospitality and travel flows through my blood. It's a big part of who I am, what I do. And for that organization, I was running their travel operations in Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. So a long history in the travel arena. I also am a professor at Niagara University. I work in their College of Hospitality and Tourism. And the cool thing about that job that I really love is not only do I get to engage with the students, learn from them, and teach them some things, but I've also had the opportunity and privilege of hiring well over a dozen of them to come work for me at AAA and to get their, start their careers after graduation. So that's been really kind of neat. I also volunteer for the last, for about a decade, but for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, more specifically in the city of Niagara Falls, I volunteer for an organization called Junior Achievement out of Western New York. And specifically what I do and how I volunteer my time is in the school systems. And I've been working with some students at Niagara Falls High School for the past 4 or 5 years, and working with them and giving them some insights and guidance as to how to prepare for life after high school graduation and all the different options and things available to them, including even how to prepare for their first job interviews, things like that. And that's been very rewarding. So that's a little bit about me. So now I'll share with you why. Why am I doing this? Why am I running for city council? There's a couple things that are really important to me. Like I said, tourism in the city. I grew up here, have a love for the city. My husband is a police officer for the city of Niagara Falls. And so as you can imagine, keeping our neighborhood safe, our community safe, investing in the police so that they have the resources and tools to do that for us is something that's really important to me. So that's one of the things that are high on my agenda, the public safety programs, not just for the police, but for all of our first responders, and including our city workers who keep this, the streets and the environment safe for them to do their jobs. So those are some things that are really important to me. Growing and expanding our tourism industry, because if we can do that and do that well, we're going to gain a lot of benefits, such as an expansion of jobs that go from seasonal to year round. We're going to create more revenues into the city that will give us more resources to do things that we need to do versus just, increasing taxes. I'm all about, coming from the private sector, I'm all about increasing revenues. And that's where I like to put my energies and my focus. And the last thing I'll share with all of you that's important to me is, and it kind of goes along with some of the things that I said, is our younger generation. Personally, and this is my feeling, I have kids, grandkids, I feel the future of our city, the future of Niagara Falls is in our school systems right now. That's where the real talent is, the future is, and engaging and working with our younger talent and investing in them for the long haul for our city is really important to me. And I have some ideas on how to do that. So let me stop there. I've shared quite a few things about me and why I'm doing this and what's important. I'm not real sure how the flow of this works, but I'd love to engage and take some questions and have a dialogue with some of you.
I'll start, Tracy. You expressed a great love for tourism and hospitality. What would you do to increase tourism right here in the Falls?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for first of all, thank you for going first and asking the question. So tourism is, like I said, I have a love and passion for the tourism and hospitality industry. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do and just do better. So let me start with something that we hear often, and that's, I'm going to start with the Niagara Falls and the state park. Often I hear, the state brings people to the state park, they consume them there, and we don't benefit here for tourism in the city. And I look at that differently, and I say, if from the numbers I hear, about 8 million visitors. Now, this was before the pandemic happened, so we'll be optimistic and say as we come out of the pandemic that we'll get back to that eventually. But if 8 million visitors are coming to the state park in footsteps from our city, it's our job to give them a reason to come into this city. And by building up the attractions, and I'm going to fall back on something I said earlier, we need family-friendly attractions that are going to give people a great experience, a memorable experience, an experience where they're going to take photos. So we have to invest in more family-friendly attractions, more I think restaurants and pedestrian-friendly streetscapes to give people an opportunity to move around the tourist area and feel safe doing that. And when people travel, they want to do that. They want to be able to walk from one attraction to the next and do that safely in these pedestrian-friendly streetscapes. Wayfinding systems, telling people how to get from one place to another is not something we do very well with our signage downtown. So these are some of the things where I think we need to put together some resources, some planning, and groups of people that understand what it takes to get these types of things done and invest in those types of areas. And the last point I'll make is if we can do that and do that well, that will start to extend our tourism season. Right now, the bulk of it is May through September, Memorial Day to Labor Day. We have to expand that for the growth and health of our city, for the residents here too. If we can do that, jobs and, like I said, jobs and revenues and things like that will start to increase, and we'll have more resources to do more things.
Okay, so we have time for one more question, and I know that Geraldine has had her hand up for a while.
Oh, great, Geraldine.
So if you would ask your question, and then Oh, I got one in the chat I want to make sure I get to before you go. So Geraldine, go up.
Unmute. Hi. So I'm a resident of Niagara Falls, and I've lived here for about 7 or more years. And I do see a lot of the information regarding the garbage fees currently. Can you speak to that?
Yes, so the garbage fee, which I think was implemented a couple of years ago and voted on by the council, of course. And so that the garbage fee was put into place and it helped generate a little over $4 million of revenue into the city, which helps to pour money back into mostly our public services, I believe, right, to help with some of those things. Now, here's the important message I want to put forward. So the garbage fee, it was put into place. I don't know if it's going to be going anywhere, but what we need to be doing, the reason that was put into place, that's the problem. The reason it was put in there is because we needed revenues, we needed money. We need as a city to start focusing on how do we generate more revenue without having to tax our residents, and I'm a resident, so I'm impacted by that, or put more fees on our plates, right? So how do we do that? Economic development, more businesses, expanding the tourism district. I know, and by tourism district, we have the core district downtown, but we have other areas too that we can develop businesses like Pine Avenue. And the reason I want to go back to that and really fall on, we need to grow and develop in those areas, because here's the great thing about visitors to our city. Not only do they come and have a great time, but when they leave, you know what stays? Their money. Their money stays behind, and that gets recycled through the economy. And that's where we need to be putting our emphasis on. And we have to become a much more business-friendly city. We have to attract and entice people to want to do business with us. That's where I want to put my energies, because that's where I think we need to go, not by continuing to put more and more fees and taxes on us.
And with that being said,
wait, Geraldine, I gotta cut you off. I got one more quick question, and then I gotta go to the next candidate, because the question from chat talks about, as a city councilman, will you commit to creating a committee to discuss issues for people with disabilities in the city?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the great thing about community, right? And what makes communities strong and healthy. It's engagement and involvement from all different groups. So absolutely, we need to hear, we need to understand, we need to listen, we need to know what's needed. And the only way to do that is through engagement and having those types of things, those types of discussions. And that's one way to do it. So I would advocate for having committees for all different types of groups, so that we can understand those things. But that's what makes strong communities.
Then I want to thank you for taking your time with us. All right, we really appreciate it. I have Miss Miles, Donta Miles, who is running for, I think it's
yep. So you have Donta.
Yes, I have Donta Miles running again for city councilman. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, as you switch over to Dante, I am going to thank everybody for your time. Thank you for your questions. I'll log off and let Dante take it from here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Mr. Miles, the next 10 minutes are yours.
Okay, I'm Dante Miles. I'd like to thank you guys first for having me and hear my platform. I'm born and raised here in the city of Niagara Falls on the north end. Niagara Falls. I'm a father. I like to always put that out first, because that's what I am first. That's my priority. I'm actually sitting next to one of my reasons of why I'm running for city council right now, which is my son. And I have a son, Dylan, and my daughter, Dahlia. I'm a musician. I've been a musician here in the city of Niagara Falls for over 25 years. Music has been my passion for a while. and I am a active member and an administrative member of the Niagara Falls Peacemakers. I was the president for the first year. That had given me a great opportunity to engage even more of the community. I work for Pinnacle Community Services. I am a street outreach worker, and I deal with homeless youth between the ages of 12 and 24. But also in conjunction with Heart, Love, and Soul, I also do outreach with them as well for the whole population of Niagara Falls. So my reasons, I have a few reasons of why I'm running for Niagara Falls City Council. I often mention the saying that a rising tide floats all boats. One thing that I've learned throughout my life. Okay, I'm sorry, that's my son. Hold on just a second, buddy. Throughout my life that if there's just a moment, she'll come. Throughout the time that I've been working, I've just noticed that our city has a lot of broken pieces. There's just things that needs to be fixed. My kids, they can't play outside because of a lot of the crime, the shootings and, the dilapidated buildings and the homes and the houses that have been in disrepair. Uh-oh, I hear something else. Is that someone else?
No, that's okay. We're muting folks. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. No, that's all good. So my son, I call him, I'm gonna step outside for a second because he's talking right now. So my son, he's my patience child. I call him, he taught me a lot of patience. My son, he's autistic. And one thing that I've learned is that I want him to have the tools that he needs as he grows older. I don't want him to be looked at as a disease. I want to make sure that he's able to thrive in the city that I grew up in. I grew up during the village era. We had people that took care of us and looked out for us, and the fact that a lot of our elders are nervous to even come outside and get a breath of fresh air at night when it's nice and cool, that bothers me. So there's that's a part of the many reasons of why I'm running, because I want the quality of life for my son, my daughter, my son. The quality of life as a whole. If that changes, if that can get better, it's going to affect everyone. So yeah, that's pretty much all in a nutshell. My reason also to give to allow the community to know that they have a voice. I've been at city council meetings for the last 6 years. I call it blowing the trumpet or sometimes pounding the podium. And I understand what it covers. I understand the budget. I understand the budgeting process. And I understand, the development process and just that level of governing. I just want to make sure that, I bring that transparency and that accountability to a place of the decision making and governing that's taking place here in the city of Niagara Falls.
All right. I do have a question to start with in chat.
Okay.
Which is, what would you do about building Main Street in Niagara Falls up again?
One of the biggest things is that I understood is that anything that gets developed in our city, and I've learned this just even by literal engagement throughout the city of Niagara Falls with our residents, is that it has to have community buy-in. So the first thing I think that should happen is that we have to have more forums, more public forums as it pertains to what it is that we're going to build or develop in our city. Because anything that's developed, one thing that I realize is that it has to be maintained by our residents that live here. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Instead of having the idea that we'll build it and they'll come, that doesn't necessarily that doesn't hold truth. For the most part, we have to find out what it is that our residents want before we actually build it up.
That's important. Mark?
All right. You spoke about your son and being disabled, and then the elderly generations being afraid to come out of their houses to even get a breath of fresh air because they're scared of the violence and whatnot around the city. What would you do to help make the city a safer place?
Yeah, so what I would do is continue in the path that I'm at right now when it comes down to community engagement. Our local organizations that are already grassroots, roots to the ground, such as the Niagara Falls Peacemakers. We have a group by the name of Men Standing Strong. We have, other groups that are actually combating violence from a grassroots level, but more so from a community standpoint, because we can't expect police officers. Police respond, and I think that's the part that I always try to express the most. Like, they're going to respond to a call, so chances are something already happened for them to get a response. I believe that our greatest asset is our people. Communication, allowing people to connect, and once people connect and people begin to, connect together, speak. And communicate, then we can be able to be more proactive than we are reactive. We won't actually have to react to things, but we can actually set up standards. We can create community block clubs and groups of that nature that can help be more proactive to keep more of a proactive eye on this violence that takes place in our city.
Right. Norman, you have your hand up. You can unmute.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Norman has his hand up, so that means he has a question.
Okay. My question is to the candidate for city council, same one I asked Colin. If elected, will you support a full-time person to advocate for the disenfranchised and the disabled in the city of Niagara Falls?
Absolutely. Actually, it's one person that I keep in contact with, Dexter Colvin. We've been actually talking about a program that he actually wants to implement that actually, puts those needs and those situations first, because we do understand that, like, again, I have a son that has those special needs as well. And there are things that are needed, and we don't want those who are disabled and with special needs to be looked or overlooked. You know what I mean? And it comes from a personal place with me, because I deal with it firsthand. So that's definitely not just on my radar, but that's something that I would be willing to be a champion for.
Incidentally, I spoke to Dexter Colvin yesterday.
Yeah. He's a good guy. I mean, I grew up around them. The Bishop, Uriah Colvin, and the family. I know them very well, but I understand that they have they have to know that they have a voice too, and they have to know that they're that they should feel like stakeholders in the progress of our city as well.
Okay.
All right. So a quick follow-up on that question, just to make sure that I cover this with other city council candidates. You also support a committee to talk about the access issues for people with disabilities, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that was our last question for you. Dante, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, especially being a dad out there in the sun.
Yeah, we're actually here at the trunk or treat over here at Packer Court, if anyone is available around the areas.
There you go. I'm gonna pass it to Miss Capon. I know she's here.
Hi.
Thank you. Right. You can hear us?
I can hear you.
All righty. Okay, so the next 10 minutes are yours.
Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Sarah Beeline Capon. It's really nice to be in the sun and see so much sun today. I just stepped out of a meeting in Buffalo, so I'm sitting in my car, so I apologize for the lack of quality with the visibility. But I am running for the 14th District of the Niagara County Legislature, representing the communities of Somerset, Newfane, and Lockport. I am presently the Executive Director for the Niagara Falls National Heritage Area, so part of my heart is in Niagara Falls. And what we do as an organization and what I've been involved with is creating the Discover Niagara Shuttle, which has run from Memorial Day all the way through Columbus Day. In addition, the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center. I'm hoping that my expertise will be an important attribute to people selecting me to be the next county legislator for the 14th district. I have significant experience in tourism development, economic development, and building projects from the ground up with people, not just for people, but with people, and seeking their input to make better places. So a couple of my priorities include the Alcott Beach Pier Project, which is bringing additional resources into the community to bring businesses back on Main Street, but also creating better services for people who live in rural communities. As you probably know, a lot of the services have left our rural communities, including our local hospital. And it's very difficult for people, especially people who don't have transportation, to get the medical services, the mental services, and the emotional support that they need, in addition to everyday opportunities to go get groceries. And there's a significant amount of isolation, especially with our seniors out in the 14th district. So to really create engaging opportunities for people. Did you want me to add anything more?
No, we can go to questions if you like. It's your 10 minutes.
Okay.
Who has a question for Ms. Capon?
Hi, Bill.
How you doing today, Ms. Capon?
Hi.
You mentioned about developing the Alcott strip there, and I remember that back in the 80s and how that used to be, the 80s and 90s, and going down there shopping at the candy shops and the seafood places and everything, right? But the main thing is, when I was doing it, I had to have transportation to get there.
Right.
So the public transportation in that area is almost nil at this point. If I want to take public transportation from Niagara Falls to Lockport, I would have to go to Buffalo first.
Right.
So, I mean, how do we make that more convenient for people who have disabilities who would like to go to a place like that? I mean, how do we?
Yes. So I know a lot about that because, again, we run the Discover Niagara Shuttle, which is a free transportation service that runs from Niagara Falls to Old Fort Niagara with 17 stops in between. This year, we expanded to Lockport, connecting people between Lockport and Niagara Falls, and then created a micro loop around Lockport. And the service doesn't benefit just tourists. It actually benefits the people who live in the communities, to get them to go and experience, to be able to enjoy sites. All of our vehicles are ADA accessible for 2 people with mobile impairments. So what I would hope to do, and as you indicated, is rural transportation and just public transportation in general in Niagara County is a sorry state of affairs, is to be able to expand programs with our service, but also with other existing public transportation, so people can get out and enjoy the great assets we have, but also find their way to be able to get to jobs, get to grocery stores, get to schools, and get to medical appointments.
Okay, that answers that question. Ms. Capon, I have a question. As an advocate for people with disabilities, would you support a county advisory council or dedicated county staff to work on increasing access to people with disabilities?
Absolutely. So in my own organization, again, accessibility is one of our touchstones and our strongest values. Any project that we are involved with, we engage with people.
Hold on one moment.
Yep.
They're gone. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, so just to add, we've partnered with the disability awareness training team with Dave Whalen out of Niagara University. So we work directly with them when we build programs. And so I feel like it's very, very important to have a committee and dedicated staff that is available to improve every municipality, making life a lot easier for people with disabilities and creating accessibility across the board.
Wonderful. That's a great answer. Next question for Ms. Capon. Mark, I don't see any hands up. Do you have a question?
I don't have a question right now. Oh, Norman's hand is up.
Norman, you're up.
Yes, Ms. Caitlin. One of the innovative ways governments and major organizations are dealing with specialty groups these days is to hire peers, non-professional people who are, for instance, people with disabilities to work in agencies. And I've spoken to some of the candidates for city council about hiring a full-time person to act as an advocate, a liaison between the disability or the disabled community and the disenfranchised community. Some people have both types of microaggressions. Would you be interested in supporting the hiring of a disabled person to work as a liaison with the county legislators?
Absolutely, positively, yes. Again, we work really closely with the disability awareness team of NU. And so we are always trying to find ways to partner and to provide job opportunities for people who have disabilities to work alongside any of our programs. And again, this is a very important position that Niagara County is currently lacking. And you're absolutely right, Norman. It's not only people with disabilities, it's also people who have been disenfranchised. And that's a missing voice at our table at the county government level.
To have someone in that position would provide a great source of hope for someone who's young and facing a life ahead of them with a disability.
I couldn't agree with you
provide
more.
a great service. Okay. Well, we support you. If you introduce legislation at the county level, we will support you with that legislation.
Thank you. I would love to work alongside all of you just to improve accessibility across the county because we need it.
Great. That's hopeful.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful day. I appreciate the opportunity.
Very much for
lovely to have
joining
you.
us.
Thank you so much for stopping by. We're going to move. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. Nope, I just want to say thank you again.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
We're going to go directly to Mr. Vocchio. Chris Vocchio.
Hello there.
Running for Niagara County Legislature again. There you are. Can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, so the next 10 minutes or so are yours.
Okay, I'll take a small portion of that and then we'll go to your questions because that seems more interesting than me just talking. So I was at your organization 4 years ago when I was a candidate for city council and I was fortunate to win that race. I believe I've been a taxpayer champion and an advocate for good government for the past 4 years, 3.5 years, I guess. And I'm hoping to be elected on Tuesday night to the county legislature for the 6th district, which is basically, the House has asked you to start.
I just sent you a notice about starting video, just so we can see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll hit OK.
Yep. And now we can see you. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. So I hope to be elected to the county legislature for the 6th district, which is essentially the southern center city portions of Niagara Falls. I'm running on a platform of public safety, economic development. There are things that I believe the county does well. And I think we can tap into more resources from the city of Niagara Falls. And we pay county taxes. The county's budget is $360 some odd million. And I want to make sure that we're getting our share of that budget. So that's pretty much my my brief pitch. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, Mr. Vogel, if you're elected to the position, you intend to give money to help support Niagara Falls, the Niagara Falls standing and better standing?
Well, so the county budget is 360, let's say $6 million. And I just think that Niagara Falls has 4 county legislators that represent it in the legislature. And I just can't help but think that we can get a greater share of resources that the county provides. The county has a wonderful economic development agency. I'd love to work with them closely to help. We need economic development more than anything in the city of Niagara Falls. Everybody and every political party would agree with that. We have a sheriff's department that provides public safety services. They are now working much closer with our city police department. I'd like to see that be expanded. So I will be an advocate for seeking greater county resources for the city.
Anybody else here? I don't see any hands up.
All right, so I'll ask a couple of questions. Access for people with disabilities in Niagara County, as you might suggest, is really, really important to us. So we need to know if you would support a advisory committee for people with disabilities on the county level, because Niagara County doesn't yet have one of those.
Yeah, so I want to know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I want to know more. I heard the question to previous candidates, both the committee and the employee who would be an advocate. And I would love to say, yes, absolutely, without knowing the details, but I'm a details guy. So I just want to know more, whether it's an advocacy committee or a full-time position to advocate for the disabled. I want to know things like, how much would that cost? What would the role be of that person or that committee? I want to know if there's an existing county agency or employee that could take on those responsibilities, or perhaps is already doing some of those responsibilities, which could be expanded. And until I knew more in terms of those things, I'm hesitant to say, absolutely, while I'd love to, earn your support by saying that, I don't want to mislead anyone in my campaign for whether it was city council 4 years ago or county legislature now.
I completely understand. That was the question that was in the hopper for me.
Sure.
Who else has a question for Mr. Vocchio? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
I pronounce it Vocchio, but Vocchio's
Vocchio.
common.
There we go. Do you know who advocates for people with disabilities in Niagara County now?
I do not. We have a social services agency, as you probably know, on Falls and 10th, that huge building there. There are a lot of county employees there, and I am certain somebody there, and I shouldn't even say somebody, but some department there is involved with that, but I couldn't tell you who that is.
Okay. And the important thing, we want to be able to give you a little bit of education while you're here.
Of course.
We're talking about promoting access, not necessarily providing services. The person that would normally do that is what they call a designated 504 ADA coordinator.
Okay.
Right. And if Niagara County has one, we've had some difficulty locating and interacting with that individual. Hence why the question being asked of other candidates is supporting options for additional communication and access. And by way of example, Erie County has both an advocate and an advisory council.
Yep.
Right. So want to be able to make sure we identified that. I have another question from the chat here.
Of course.
In your work with the city, do you know who the affirmative action person is for people of color?
So there's a gentleman who works in our economic development department, who was for a while focused on minority. His title has since changed, minority and women-owned businesses. Is that what you're talking about?
I think we might be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion here, but
No,
at least
then
it
I
is
do
an
not.
answer, right? So what, in terms of your time as a city council person, can
Sure.
you highlight some things that you've done to guarantee or increase equity in the city for any group of citizens?
No, I mean, if you're looking for the hiring of a position or the funding of a position for that role, I have not. I will tell you, I've done 100% of what, let's say, your organization or anyone else has asked me for along these lines, meaning no one has come to me and said from your organization or any other and said, hey, we should have this position to advocate for these folks. It's never happened. And my guess is I have 4 colleagues on the council. Our answers would be uniform unless an agency went to my other 4 colleagues, asked them for this, and yet they never brought anything to the floor because it's not anything we've voted on up or down. Yes or no?
All right. Just another piece of feedback and education for you.
Sure.
We're talking about the city of Niagara Falls, who's been involved in complaints from the Department of Justice on access. So there is a person who deals with the component for people with disabilities in the city.
Are you talking about the crosswalks and the things where we've been cited and had to reconstruct some intersect?
Actually, Niagara Falls was selected by the DOJ Project Access, which was back at the Obama administration, to highlight systemic lacks of accessibility in the city. That was one of the reasons why we spent a lot of time advocating over stuff with the parks. You might remember some conversations with regard to budget and spending, right? So it's not right. So it's not just about curb cuts, but it's also about access to city services, access to accessible city information, including provision of Braille and alternative formats, which we haven't quite gotten to yet, even though the settlement with DOJ is now 13 years old. So, we ask these questions because the administrative entities are farther behind sometimes than we think, right? But we appreciate that there needs to be education on this issue. Do I have another question for Mr. Vocchio as he's in his last minute? This will probably be the last one we have. Anybody want to
make
raise
a
their
comment?
Of course. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay. Mr. Candidate, what we would like to see is a person in the room who has personal experience with disabilities and with disenfranchisement. Now, this person would be nice if this person could be an educated professional. But one thing you do not need an education for is learning how to live with a disability or live with being disenfranchised. Your experience is enough to present your experience in the room with those who have the power to make changes. All we want to see is somebody that represents us in the room where the decisions are being made, and not have to wait until a law is passed or a fine is levied or something bad happens to cause the people in the room to be forced to make that decision. Are you willing to help put someone in the room who can do that?
When you say put someone in the room, can you clarify that?
That means put forth legislation, present a proposal to have someone to advocate in the room in a full-time position for people who are disenfranchised or disabled?
Sure. So I would go back to my statement at the very beginning, and that is I want to know a little.
You want to know how much it costs? I heard that.
Not just how much it costs, but well, yeah, we can shake our heads, but I want to know how much it costs, what the role would be, what the job description would be, and then I'd want to talk to the people in similar roles right now in the county to find out, is there someone who works on our payroll who could do this job? Do we need to?
Todd can rough you up a proposal in a matter of minutes.
I'm sorry?
Todd can rough you up a proposal in a matter of minutes,
Well,
letting you know what the requirements are, and anyone in your budget office can come up with a proposal.
Sure,
Todd can do that too.
Because we're running up on the clock, and I'm Todd, I'm the guy he's talking about. Also with me is Mark, who can do that as well. What I want to do is ask a very simple question. Can you commit with us, right, should you win, to have a meeting with us to talk about these issues in depth to potentially come up with a solution?
Absolutely. That's the one thing that I will say, absolutely, where the other candidates said absolutely more quickly on some of the other things. I would have an open door. I would think you would know that. If you have an issue that's coming before the county legislature, or quite frankly, before the city council, I would highly encourage you to reach out, whether it's me or any of the other county legislators, and say, look, we need to talk about this. This is something we believe in and we want to advocate for.
So you'd be open to, say, a date within the first 30 days of your term as a county legislator, sometime in November, perhaps?
Well, so my term would begin on January 1st, but I'd meet with you. Look, I live a mile away from your facility, so I'd meet with you anytime. If
I'm always a big guy in having meetings during transition to get people ready, right?
Then the election's November 2nd. We may or may not know the results on the 2nd, but I'll meet with you anytime. And if I lose the election and there's an issue in the next 2 months before the city council, you know how to reach me. I'm a pretty accessible guy.
Absolutely. We appreciate the time that you've spent with us.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming. For our folks in the audience, Mr. Elder is our last candidate of the day. Jeffrey, can you hear us?
Good afternoon, I can hear you.
Jeffrey is running for a county legislature again. So some of this discussion is apropos to you. Do you have a camera on? Let me ask you about. Let's pin you.
I have my camera on.
There we go. I can see you now. All right, wonderful. So some of this conversation we've been having is relevant to you. But I want to give you an opportunity to start with a statement if you'd like. Your 10 minutes starts now.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. By now, you all know that I am Jeffrey Elder. I'm the Democratic and the Working Families endorsed candidate for county legislator in the 4th District of Niagara Falls, New York, and I'm a former Air Force One crew member. As always, I always like to thank God for giving me the opportunity to stand before you, because he gives me the strength to do everything that I do. And then I thank each and every one of you for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule. I graduated from the South Senior High School many years ago, and I joined the United States Air Force. I had no idea what was to come. And who would have thought that a young Black man from Niagara Falls would wind up traveling the world with 3 different presidents that knew him on a first name basis. So they would always say, hey, Jeff, you probably have some pretty good stories about that. And I say, yes, I do. And then I also say, I wrote a book about it. It's called From Niagara Falls to Air Force One and Back. It just went on sale back on Father's Day. So just to move on a little bit more, so we meet at this time in history when the world and our nation are in turmoil, and it's our responsibility, our right, and our duty for our children and future generations that we get this right. Unfortunately, many years ago, the city was dealt a critical blow to our future, and that blow was the unfortunate aftermath of when the Love Canal happened. I actually grew up in the Love Canal. When that happened, a large portion of African Americans in the city had to relocate to the North End. That move to the North End really hampered the Black vote in Niagara Falls. And now we have terms such as gerrymandering and packing districts and stuff like that. Those are things that have happened. Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe it was intentional. We don't know. But this is what we need to do to get this thing right. We need to come together, even though at times, with me being in the North End, we have to run against each other. That's something that we have to do, but we have the power to enfranchise ourselves. We need to vote. We need to vote with our feet, with our hands, and with our wallets. We have the power, as Abe Lincoln said in the last sentence of the Gettysburg Address, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish. So, and we have been perishing greatly in this land, and it's directly due to the inaction of people and the direct action and inaction of our government that is in place or has been in place. We really need to get involved and stand up for our communities. We not only have the responsibility, but we have the ability to get this done. For myself, I worked in the federal level. I'm a Niagara Falls resident by birth, and I know what it takes to turn things around. As President Obama said over a decade ago, I can't do this alone. So the people, so you the people, we the people, we must come together and stand together. Whether if you're white, black, Asian, Latino, we all have a responsibility to uplift democracy for everybody, not just those that traditionally have had their hands in the pocket or in the jar. We can all end this, but it takes a bold first step. And I'm Jeffrey Elder, and I'm humbly asking everybody for their vote. I have the experience, the desire, the intellect, and the networking connections to make our neighborhoods stronger, financially secure, and safer. So I am running for county legislator of the 4th district, and that is my spiel to you. And I'm going to open it up for questions.
All righty. And I know because Mark and I have been running in the chat. Mr. Sweet, would you like to begin with a question for Mr. Elder?
Okay, Mr. Elder, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
I imagine you have stories you could tell about being on Air Force One. That would blow my mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know if you've had a chance to hear our previous conversation, but I've been on one thing most of the afternoon. I want to see someone in the room where the decisions are made who either represents the disenfranchised and the disabled, or is, better yet, disenfranchised and disabled. Someone in the room who knows personally what it feels like to be disenfranchised, to be disabled. Someone who doesn't have to ask anybody what it feels like to be left out, to be an afterthought to the government they pay their taxes to the governments that's appointed to serve them. Are you willing to seek to place someone in the room who knows the life experience of being disenfranchised and disabled?
To answer your question, Mr. Sweet, absolutely, emphatically, yes. Because if you look at me, I am a black young man, or I'm a black man, and I have been disenfranchised. I have been a very privileged man because of some of the experiences and places that I've been. But at the same time, it also allowed me to see how I have been disadvantaged in many different ways. Niagara Falls is an international city. Everywhere I've been in the world, and I've been around the world many times, every place that I've been, I've met people that not only knew about Niagara Falls, but many of them said, you know what, and we're planning a trip to Niagara Falls. So why not we want to make sure that everybody is included. This is inclusive. Niagara Falls is a melting pot. If you are disadvantaged, you need to be in the room because there are going to be people coming to our city that are going to be disadvantaged, and they need to know exactly how to get around, how to get things going. So not only yes, but emphatically yes, because I have lived the experience and I've seen it at the highest levels. I've seen it at the lowest levels, and I am 100% going to be involved in that.
You are a survivor. So we can expect you to take part in any effort that we make or we support to have someone in the room. We know you'll be there, but you made it out. We are looking back to those who are still in that position, suffering even now. And it's great to see somebody make it out. I know people who've made it out. I've made it out myself. But we need people in the room where the decisions are being made. And I can see that's where you're trying to get. So we can count on your support, I'm taking.
Yes, one thing my grandmother told me when I left to go in the Air Force when I was 18 years old, she said, baby, never forget where you came from. And that's one thing that I have not done. And people ask me, Jeff, you've lived all over, you lived in DC for how long? Why did you come back to Niagara Falls? And I said, well, first of all, I love Niagara Falls. My mother is still alive. I see my mother. I wake my mother up every day. I get to kiss my mother. I am blessed. And the Patti LaBelle sang the song, when you've been blessed, pass it on. I spoke to a youth group just the other weekend, and I told them, I am back here because I have made it to a certain point. And when you get to a certain point, you need to reach back and bring somebody back up with you. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And that's why I'm running for county legislator. I've had experiences with 3 different presidents. I've worked at the Department of State for 7 years, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Pentagon. I've learned from a lot of high-ranking people. And all those experiences, when I came back to Niagara Falls, I thought to myself, if I came back here and sat around and did absolutely nothing, that would be a travesty. So I am going to do everything in my power. I live in the 4th district. And if you know anything about the 4th district, this is the most ravaged part of the city. Everybody's like, Jeff, you live in the hood. I said, yes, I live in the neighborhood. And we're going to make this neighborhood even better.
Go from hood to good. I don't know. I like the idea of you being there.
Thank you.
We have about time for one more question from Mr. Elder. Anybody want to raise their hand or put something in the chat?
Oh, now everybody's shy.
I am getting things in the chat about reminding people to put the neighbor back in the hood, right? So they are positively responding to your message.
Yes. And then my final plug, don't forget, from Niagara Falls to Air Force One and back. It has, if you're looking for juicy stories on the president, I'm not the person to my story about my life.
We want to thank you for taking the time with us and batting cleanup, because you are our last candidates day. And I'm going to throw it over to Mark to do the wrap up. Mark, you're muted. I don't know why. Mark, you're muted.
I can't change it. No.
Hold on.
Okay.
There we go. Try again, Mark.
All right. On behalf of Island Sea and the Bueno family of agencies, I would like to thank you, Mr. Elder, for coming and participating today. And wish you good luck on Tuesday.
Well, and we'd also like to thank all of you who participated today, who've been with us the last couple hours. We appreciate your patience against the Zoom bombers. It's what happens when you set up a Zoom meeting that's open to the public, right? And we hope to see you again at next year's Meet the Candidates Day. Thank you so much for attending.